Hey moms, welcome to episode 12. Today we're going to talk about ways to have a fun family dinner and actually get your kids talking and engaged in it. It's going to be a great time to kind of reset and get some new ideas on dinner time. Hello moms, welcome to the Front Parking Spot podcast. I am so glad you're here. I'm Jennifer Bosma, wife, mom, grandma, former teacher for 23 years, and now a Christian children's book author and your podcast host. Are you a faith-based mom trying to live out a Christian life for your family? Do you want to learn more ways that you can have power over your child's spiritual growth? Inside this podcast, you will find tried and true ideas to grow in your faith and be the best wife and mom you can be. So listen in as you're cleaning up, doing the drive, or matching that sock. And be encouraged to know that God has his front parking spot set aside for you. For being here today. What we're going to be talking about is family dinners. And when you think back in time, I'm sure you have some great memories of what you would do in family dinners when you were growing up. I remember on Sundays, my grandma and my grandpa my grandma was from my mom's side and my grandpa was from my dad's side. They would come over every Sunday and we would have Sunday dinner. It was so special. Back in the day, your mom made the mashed potatoes and the beef and you had the relish tray. And you guys are all pretty much a lot younger than me. But back when I was little, we had Jell-O. We had Jell-O a lot, kind of crazy. But some of my best memories were actually from dinner time. And I know from talking to moms that that's something that they really wish they could kind of get back and kind of in a repertoire in their home and just kind of get back to family dinners. So I have a couple suggestions that I think that will really help you get to that point. When I was teaching, we would always start the day with a meeting. And we would always have a different theme every day for the meeting. And some of these themes that we would do during meetings, I think could be really easily implemented at dinner time. On Mondays, we would usually talk about what we did over the weekend. So for instance, if you eat dinner on Monday together, maybe the topic for Mondays would be hey, tell me what your favorite thing is that we did this weekend. And then you kind of get talking about some of the things they liked and some of the things, that they didn't like, which we'll talk about in a minute. So we would talk about favorite ideas for the weekend. And then we'd also have on Tuesdays or whatever, we'd have compliment days. So during dinner, you could say, hey, I wanted you to think all day long, you set this up before, but just let's share compliments with something. Maybe you got a compliment, maybe you want to share a compliment, and then you can kind of talk about compliments. And on Wednesdays, we always had the high, low, and what you learned during our meetings at school. So I really brought this high, low, and what you learned home to the dinner table. And I'm telling you, it was so much fun. So we would sometimes do that every night. You could even ask, okay, what was your high of the day? And then the kids get talking. What was your low of the day? And then they kind of tell you. And then what did you learn? And it's really fun. I mean, you can even do this conversation every night with your kids. It's sometimes they don't they had such a great day. They can't think of what was a bummer part of the day. And sometimes they have a hard time thinking of a high. And so when you actually tap into questions like high, low, and what you learned, you actually really kind of tap into their heart and what they're really thinking. And some things come out that maybe you can talk about more and kind of delve in a little bit deeper, or maybe something, that you didn't think was a big deal was a big deal. You really get to know your kids really, really well. And this is actually perfect for elementary school or even younger, just kind of getting to know what their high, low, and what they learned. Also, parents, you got to do it. So you also you can start by modeling high, low, and what you learned. And it is amazing how they will start talking. So and then you could tie in on the weekends, what are you the most excited about in the weekend? And I did this in my classroom and I took it right home with me at home too. And what you can actually find out from your kids when you ask these pointed questions is very, very valuable. Another great idea of what you can do too is if you have a lot of kids, you can say, hey, we're going to figure out, you can meal plan together and you can give a child, can figure out who is going to take what night. So one child can take Monday and maybe they kind of help you create the meal for their favorite dinner. And maybe they actually help you make the meal, or maybe they make one component of the meal. That is a great way to have okay, Monday is Mary's night, and Tuesday is is Tom's night or whatever. So think of, each child gets to pick their favorite meal and they actually get to help you make it, even if you even want to have them help you go grocery shopping for it. These are all ways that you can be intentional about dinner and really getting engagement back to dinner time, which is such a classic, wonderful family time to bring your family together. So the meal prep and the menu prep, that is a great thing. And like I said, each child can get their own idea. They can cook what they want to cook, and they can help make it, and you're teaching them how to cook. This is a slow and steady process. You start off slow. Maybe they're just sitting on the counter watching you. Maybe they're doing a little chopping, but slow and steady. This is a gradual build, and you are actually teaching them how to cook. The other thing is when you're cooking, when you're at dinner, you're going to turn off your TV. TV is not on. Just turn it off, and all phones are put away, because the phone is the biggest distraction and the biggest robber of our intentional family time. Put them away. And if you guys do this, mom and dad, if you put your phone away, when your kids get a little older or they're teenagers, they will just know that there is time that they don't have their phone. And you will model this behavior to them early. And that is the best way, because it will never be a discussion when they're older teenagers to put their phone away, because they have seen you through time put your phone away. And that's a great way to really be intentional and engage and just be with your family. And the other really cool thing is, I think this goes, without saying, but to say a prayer before dinner time every night. And what's also really neat is if you have the child who food preps and it's like their dinner of choice and they're making the dinner, have them eventually let them say the prayer. Let them do the whole thing. Let them say the prayer. Let them, talk about why they cooked this dinner, why they chose this, what they like about it, and how they actually helped with making the dinner. And then they can be the clearer, or you can assign different tasks with your kids, if you're going to make the dinner this night, then this person cleans up. So it's just a really great way to get your kids involved in dinner, have deliberate conversation when you're asking them actual topics that they have to give you more than a yes or no answer. And you will get creative, and so many things will come out when you're talking to your kids. I remember in my classroom, some really, really deep conversations. And sometimes we even go longer, and our reading schedule would be pushed way off, but we were doing the important things. So be intentional. Don't forget about the high, low, and what you learned. Don't forget to have maybe a night that you give compliments. Don't forget to have a night that you can talk about how your weekend was, what your favorite thing of the weekend was, or on a Thursday night, what they're most looking forward to in the weekend. And these times, I promise you, moms, they are cherished times. Your kids will love it. They will learn how to say a prayer out loud. They'll learn about meal prepping. They'll learn about cooking. They'll have some responsibility, and you'll really get some good conversations going. And a family that eats together and prays together and talks together without distractions of phones, and TV is off and not even on, so you're not distracted by what's scrolling across the TV. But this intentional time will have natural times of conversation that your kids will continue to talk. And even if they're teenagers or almost teenagers, it will just become a natural time to really open up during dinner. And one final thing when you're thinking about dinner, let your child pick the location of where you're eating. Everyone kind of sits at their kitchen table, which is great, but maybe one night change seats, or maybe one night sit on the other end of the table, or maybe go outside, or maybe you have a low cocktail table in your family room that everyone could kind of sit on the ground around the table. Let them make it fun like that, because kids love changing up the routine, and they will have such a sense of ownership and excitement that they had this idea to eat dinner in this different location. And that will be another way to open up the conversation of the day and what's been on their heart. Well, moms, I hope that these ideas will help you get back to the table. I hope that you will make your children feel heard and get them talking and not just eating and hearing the fork hit the plate. I really want you to have some intentional times. And the best part about it is when you start to see your kids pray. And all this comes from you modeling all this behavior first. Just try this, even if it's just a couple nights a week. I think the conversations and what you will get from your family and the intentionality of the time together, you will be so happy you did. I hope this makes your dinner times lots of fun. Well, mamas, thank you so much for joining in. I know you are super busy doing all the things that can consume your day, but you took a couple of minutes to learn how God wants to build you up in your faith, family, and life, and He wants to applaud you for this. Please subscribe and review my show. This helps other moms tune in as well. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram at Front Parking Spot, on Facebook at Front Parking Spot Mom Community, or my website at jenniferbosma.com. Have an Ephesians 3:20 type of day, mamas, and be encouraged as you go for the front parking spot in your life today. God bless.